Well, good day, everybody. So it's the last day of January, 31st of January, and tomorrow's February. Wow, it's all moving fast, and long may it last, but everyone's having a good time, although we did early hours of this morning issue the first weather alert for the fleet for this leg, which is amazing in its own right, but it was only affecting Sterner and Explorer. They're in line in about 24 hours or a little bit more to get some much stronger winds. You'll see in a minute, the forecast is only mostly for low 30s, but at one point it hits 35 knots forecast wind, and it's gusting up to 45, 50 knots. Seas are going to build to 6 to 8 meters, and then it's all going to just roll over. So it's not a intense low coming. You'll see in a minute. It's just a gradient, a wind gradient. So the wind direction is not changing. It's holding southwest. It's just building, going to get quite high and heavy, and then it's all over. So that's kind of interesting, and everyone's having a great time. We seem to speak to Maiden for whatever reason, but they rang us again this morning. They thought they'd seen a life raft in the distance. They weren't sailing very fast at all. The wind was down around 4 knots, they were saying. So, and you'll see that in a minute. But they saw what looked like a life raft off in the distance, and they wanted to advise that they were going to alter course and have a look to investigate what it was, because there is a report, an alert of a missing vessel in the Southern Ocean at the moment. So the fleet is sort of pretty much aware and looking and checking what's going on. Anyway, they were able to go over and ascertain that it wasn't a life raft. It was about 3 miles away, I think. It's a big floating coloured buoy, huge buoy. So they took a photo or something, and then they headed back to their original position, and they'll start racing again. From that same point, which is kind of cool. So that's all part of the fun. And what else can I tell you? So yeah, they probably lost maybe an hour or something, but they'll be heading in the right direction now. So that's okay as well. And everyone's very happy on board. All their tweets are coming back in glowing terms, exactly what's going on. So everyone's having a great time. Enough of that. Let's go to the tracker and see how it looks here. Okay, hang on a sec. There we go. I'm onto it. And yeah, you can see now this is the current positions. I just see Maiden here, 3.7 knots they're doing at the moment. And you can see why. There's just a big hole there. So a big hole. And not a lot of changes going on there. The back end of the fleet's still going okay, and Sterner and Explorer right down the back here, still sailing along okay. 7.4 knots. Explorer's been picking up half a knot every 4 hours. They were going slow, but they've managed 120 miles in the last 24 hours, doing 7.4 now, and that long may that last. Sterner got away from them a bit. They're doing 7.8 knots and did 169 mile day, so they've lucked out on that one. Sterner's around the waypoint. Explorer's heading there. Shouldn't be any real issues at all, and I'll just focus on that to get them out of the way, and then we can look at the bigger picture up here. So you can see here, this is the breeze that's coming up, and it'll go over them in the next 24 hours, quite literally. Here we go. You can see it coming through. There, it's picking up to 25, 28 knots, and then there's this big patch just here, which is showing on windy. We use, by the way, we don't actually use the graphics here for any fine weather detail. We're always referring to the professional version of windy, which gives you a much more accurate picture of what's going on. And generally in this here, in some parts of it down here, it's blowing sort of 60, 70, but it's diminishing in strength as it's going north. So we're not expecting Sterner will be right on the edge of it. It'll be over here a bit, and Explorer will be right in the middle of it, sort of thing, coming through. But we're expecting gusting 45 to 50 knots, and the sea building from 4 to 5 meters up to 6 to 8 meters, and then dropping back pretty quickly. So that'll literally just go over, and you can see there's no sudden wind direction shift. That's the dangerous part, because it's just building, and they'll probably enjoy it, dare I say it, because there'll be all sorts of birds come along the front of that. There'll be a lot more albatross get blown up with it, and they'll get plenty of white water everywhere. And it's the only challenging bit is it's actually on the quarter. If we come back here, it'll actually yeah, a little bit west in it, not much, but when it's blowing its hardest, it's a little bit west of south. So you'll see them veer up a little bit and run with it until it rolls over. Anyway, they know what's coming. I'll update it again tomorrow for them, and they'll already be in it by then. So all's well for them. So now we concentrate on the rest of the fleet here. So Penduic right now still doing 9.1, which is amazing. And translated 9.2. So they're obviously getting more breeze than it's showing here to keep moving like that, which means they're actually pulling away from Maiden, doing 3.7, and Spirit of Helsinki doing 4.8. So maybe this graphic isn't positioned right. Maybe they've got a bit more up here, but certainly the leaders are still enjoying the ride, whereas the others are slowing down. So Penduic, 200-mile day, translated 9, 193-mile day. Maiden, still 167-mile day, but they're parked at the moment, that's for sure. And we will give them compensation. It was about 3 miles, 6 miles. They probably might have been not racing. They will have probably sent the message by now. I don't know exactly what it is, but maybe for an hour or so, they will have been off racing. So they'll have a time correction when they get back in. And Spirit of Helsinki, 175-mile day, 4.6 knots. And so Maiden, 167. But they will have done all of that manoeuvring to observe that big buoy within that 4-hour time frame. So they've got a bit of credit coming there. Okay, Galliana with Secure, 8.6 knots and 96-mile day. So that's pretty good. Triana, 185-mile day, 8.8 knots. So happy with that. Neptune, line abreast, 8.6 knots, 174-mile day. They're showing, you can see here, there's this, what's forming up to be a bit of a low pressure ridge here that's forming into a low. And on this side, they've got the northerly. On the other side, you've got the southwesterly, close to a northeasterly and a southwesterly on the other side. So, and this is the transition. It's not very wide, but what that will do, if we look at the sea state now on this, just getting a rough idea. Okay, it's not much at all. Cheapest, they got only a couple of meters here. Okay, so it's not too bad, but what will happen is it'll be a very confused sea. While we're here, I'll check for currents. Oh yeah, that's interesting. There's a bit of a totally going set there, and so if the wind, when it turns the other way, that might make it kind of interesting. So yeah, when you get this sudden wind change, which should probably happen over 4 hours, it'll make a small vertical sea. It'll get very choppy and very confusing, but not dangerously so, touch wood. It should be pretty straightforward. So L'Esprit de Keep still hanging out the back, but trying hard and making some ground. They've got 9.2 knots, and they did a 214-mile day, which is pretty impressive. They're definitely in a hurry. Outlaw did a 201-mile day, doing 8 knots, and Evrika has got 8.8 knots and 191-mile day. Evrika's having a ball. And so is Explorer. In fact, they all are. It's interesting listening to their SoundClouds. There's very much an upbeat tempo because they're staring down the barrel at being very close to Cape Horn, and they've all earned their keep and they've earned the hard yards. But we probably shouldn't talk about it. But no big storms yet, so all looking good. So what's the future hold for the weather? We'll just come back and we'll put it in the big picture. You can see Explorer just off the screen, and here's Cape Horn, right? So we're just on the edge of that, and we'll watch what's happening as we go forward. So here's, jeepers, I did all of that briefing then on the weather that was a day ahead of schedule. That makes sense. So I'll just quickly give you another look at this. This is what we've got at the moment. So yeah, Penduic have got breeze. Spirit of Helsinki slowing down in this big band of openness here, and the others are still sailing pretty well in this generally southerly slant. Okay. What I was explaining there a minute ago was looking a bit more like this, which is actually a day ahead of time. Sorry about that. So that's today, here and now, big open spaces, but some lucky people up the front, average situation in the middle, and the guys at the back are still sailing. So from that perspective now, we'll come back and look at what it looks like going forward, and you'll see that little low pressure forming up. Okay, so here we go. Oop, we lost it there. I want to go back to that one. Explorer's just off the screen. Cape Horn over there at the side. hit that, get the wind back here, get rid of that, and we can now walk it forward. So come on, it's not working there. Now it is. Hoping it is. Yep, here we go. Okay, so we want to come through to 24 hours. There's near enough to 24 hours away. Now you can see this low pressure system forming up. This is the back edge that Explorer and Sterner will cop with the bigger winds. And you've got a potential wind changing situation. They've all got to get up around this waypoint here. Be okay for the leaders, but now all of a sudden, if this develops to a northeasterly, then Spirit of Helsinki, that's now the furthest south, they've gone from the furthest north to the furthest south over a week or something. They're going to have to climb back up to get there. But anyway, whatever happens, it's very light, frustrating winds, you might say. So, and there's going to be for 12 hours, maybe 8 hours, a little bit on the nose. So you'll see them tacking this way and that, determining which is best. But ultimately, it'll settle down into starboard tack for sure. And then, okay, there's the third. So we're now into a situation where Penduic and Translated and Maiden will have all been around, and then they can start heading straight to Cape Horn. This is the last one, the last distance. So we'll have so it's a slow day or so, and then they're on the move, and then you've got this big westerly, southwesterly, favourable breeze following you through. So this is on the third. So the first, second, third. So that's 3 days. I can count really well, eh? And let's assume they're making a little bit less than 200 miles a day. So at this point, they're going to be around about here somewhere. Okay, so the leaders are going to be about here, and the rest of the fleet stretch back. So they'll be riding this westerly down towards Cape Horn, and this is something like the map should look like, the weather map should look like at that point, which is very favourable. Plenty of breeze and a squeeze over here up against the coast. That happens regularly. The weather comes across, and the mountains and the fjords here just block it, and it all has a big squeeze, which supercharges the northerly breezes and makes it very interesting getting around. At least it doesn't create huge seas. These northerlies don't create the 20-metre seas. They still make them pretty solid, but you've got to remember it's coming up against a constant groundswell from the west and the southwest, so it can make a confusing sea. Okay, so we get rid of that now. Get rid of that. Come back to the wind. So remembering now they're over here somewhere. Okay, that's on the third, and then we push it through to the fourth. They've got more of the same. Okay, some big winds up north, but you watch what happens here, remembering that they'll be pretty much following the run line down here. So at this point, by the fourth, they're somewhere down here, the leaders, and the others are coming across this, and there's nothing there that tends to worry me. The big winds up there start to disappear. Then you've got this edge of a low pressure system, but it's got a weak front, and it's trying to form up with a big one at the bottom. What's going to happen to it? Anything could happen, right? Because it's not what I call a tight low pressure system. And by that, normally you have a low, and you can see all the way around the way the gradients are going. It's got a real obvious center, obvious airflow going around the lot, and they're the ones that can do all sorts of funny things. But because this is not defined at center yet, it's more likely just to be bent close isobars creating a wind gradient. Okay, it's not too scary at that point in time if this forecast is right. There it's trying to form up, but by doing that, it's gone north. See that? So you're now in the bottom part of the quadrant. There's nothing happening, right? Those solid winds have gone above the fleet, and at the bottom here, the only problem is it might be headwinds, okay, which is not kind of good, but that's the 6. And still no dramatic stuff, just really frustrating sailing here. Light frustrating. There's a beautiful westerly coming, but no massive storms anywhere. And we're on to the 6. So it's just kind of crazy in a way. And even still, when you've got this other sort of confusion here, heavy weather, guess what? It's nowhere near Cape Horn. Cape Horn's down here, okay? And that's on the 7th. So, and all the way through, there's the 8th. There's still nothing. And the only thing that's coming here is beautiful Southern Ocean westerlies and beautiful sailing here. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, it'll be hard to believe that the weather on the 8th of February will be what we're looking at here on the screen, because it's just too far ahead. Too many things can happen. But it's just crazy. Look at that. A bit of a squeeze there, nothing. So again, careful what you wish for, but it's really quite mild weather down there, and they're going to have some frustrations, and it's not all over till the fat lady sings. Anything can happen, and there's more to it even after you get around Cape Horn. You've got to get up to Punta. So it's all kind of interesting stuff, and that's about all I can say on that lot. Let's have a look at the leaderboard, and then we're nearly done. So line honours is pretty straightforward. You could see what was happening. Penduic, Translated, Maiden, Spirit Helsinki, and so on. IRC, there's going to be some compression of the fleet here a little bit, maybe, which makes it more interesting. But Triana, still holding its own by 2 hours. Translated 9 is 2 hours behind Triana, and then 18 hours behind that is Galliana with Secure, holding third place. And another 24 hours behind that is White Shadow. Then it's Maiden down there at 37 days, 9 hours. So they're 5, 6, 7. They're 2 days behind Triana on IRC. Then it's Neptune at 37, and then Penduic at 38 days. Penduic still running at 7th. So getting very interesting indeed. And then it's Evrika, and away we go. Spirit of Helsinki, and Spirit of Helsinki down at 9th. So certainly not up, sailing up to their pay grade at the moment, but that's the nature of the course. So I think that's all we've got there. I'll come back and say good day to everybody. And I forgot to mention we're back on track for the normal timing again now. Had some busy times in the office, but got back here for the tracker. So good day, Trish. Good to see you. I've got to find the shuffle here to move them down. They just moved up heaps. But g'day, John. Maiden used the engine to check out the buoy. I can't actually tell you. I did the initial call when they called to ask for directions or tell us they wanted to go and investigate. So I said, go for it. They can do whatever they want, and they'll log all that in their log, and they're making their way back to the original position before they left racing to carry on. So it's all pretty legit. We'll get the full report. In fact, the office has probably already got it. And we'll make the calculation for correction, which will be done at the finish of the leg. G'day, Kathleen. Way to go, Maiden. Yep. How's the cloud cover for the fleet? Are they getting sight? So I didn't check. I'll check that tomorrow. But no one's complaining about the weather in terms of or navigation. They're all just having a good time. And the videos are coming back showing blue sky. So g'day, Karun. Trish. Mansell, Cape Horn. Here they come. Yeah, you're not wrong. Very different weather pattern for the GGR. You've got to be kidding me. Absolutely. When Mark Sinclair went round Cape Horn the last time he did it, which was sailing up to Les Sables d'Olonne, he got hit by, I think it was 3 or 4 major depressions in about 7 days, one after the other, whack, whack, all like 50, 60, 70 knots, It was just phenomenal. And it looks like the front door's open at the moment. Okay, that's it. So thank you very much. I'm going to sign off. We'll see you tomorrow. Fingers crossed for the fleet, and